Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today I'm going to look at Orikan, I believe it's Orikan The Diviner. So this is a character I knew literally nothing about, and actually really intriguing. Very interesting to read about the lore more than anything else, and I learned quite a few new things about Necrons. So how this works is that I like to do a wee bit of a lore section when it comes to characters, just discuss a wee bit about their character and what they bring. Next we have a look at the unit in the Codex, we have a look at its stats, we look at war gear where applicable, special abilities, etc. And then have a look at sort of legion traits, warlord traits, relics, where they can take them, and stratagems that can be useful. So with that, let's have a wee look at Orikan the Diviner. So this is a character lore-wise I knew nothing about, just a stargazer who sees into the future and makes predictions about the nature of the universe, which is partly right, but there's so much more to him than that. So firstly we're back at Sutek, which is a shame because I really wish there was like Nova character or something, some kind of bloodthirsty, ripping apart Necron overlords, but that's because I play Nova quite a lot. Orikan is a little bit more than this. He's extremely calculating individual, like all the stars, and he sees the patterns in time and fate and in the universe, and he's famous for predicting the fall of the Eldari, rise of man, Horus Heresy, and the coming of the Tyrannids. And he can also predict the smaller events in the universe as well. This of course makes him a huge strategic asset. Being able to see into the future machinations, of your opponents is a huge advantage. There is one problem though with Orikan himself, and this is becoming a running theme when it comes to Necrons. They have massive personal flaws, and in the case of Orikan, and in a few other ones, he's mainly just like a pain in the ass to deal with. Now it appears that all Necron characters, except for maybe Zandrek, but he's got his own problems going on, they're all quite prideful pains. Orikan has no care for rank and has a really large ego that probably results in a lot of condescending comments to high-ranking Necrons, and they kind of probably want to punish him for his insolence. However, there's two reasons to avoid doing that. One is that he's a really good resource. His predictions can make a hell of a difference in engagements, of the future when you're fighting opponents. The other is that, what is sort of his actions in the future? What if he manipulates sort of the future to get you for annoying him? I mean, that's a good enough reason not to annoy him. You don't piss off time travelers. I'm pretty sure that's a rule. Don't annoy time travelers because they'll get you at some point. That's a rule of time travel, sure, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that, I didn't realise Necrons had such an ability when it came to time travel. I didn't realise how much control they had to some capabilities. I mean, I know time travel in the 40k universe is kind of like a weird thing, time in general, but Orikan has some good results through it. He is not infallible in his predictions though, and being wrong would be devastating to his reputation and possible safety. So he can manipulate time and events to make sure his predictions are of course right. Sometimes resulting in the events actually being far more devastating, for the actual end result, but at the end of the day, if that devastation means he's correct, then cool, that's all good. I mean, it'd be easier to go back in time and just change his prediction rather than, say he's wrong, but no, he has to be right the first time, I think. I mean, time travel rules. A good example of this in the Codex is that he manipulates time so that he is right, he sort of like, it's like an Imperial base or something he's trying to, he says it's going to fall and then it doesn't, so he manipulates time so it does, but that manipulation results in repercussions that result in the whole tomb world just getting annihilated in revenge. But he was right, reputation intact, alright, there was a big consequence, but he saw what he needed, he predicted that. The consequences, well, not on him, he was right. Interestingly, he also seems to have a destiny ahead of him, where celestial powers and energies will empower him into a being of absolute, almost quite high devastation to the universe, enemies or allies alike, though from reading about him, he comes off as a guy that maybe doesn't have the most allies, and that when, the universe does finally empower him, well, he already knows what's going to happen, kinda. If only sort of Illuminator Zares knew what Orikan had in mind, because if he knew, then, you know, he was close to empowerment, which is kinda what, you know, Zaraz is looking for as well. You know, he wants to become a being of pure energy and powerful. So, you know, if he knew about Zaraz this, he'd be like, cool, well, I'm going to do what, you know, Illuminator Zares does and dissect you and try and work out stuff. But Orikan would probably see that coming. So, bit of a tricky one on that one. But it seems to be a common thing with these cryptics is that they want to become super powerful. So that's a wee bit about Orikan there. What we're going to look into next is his actual rules and game, you know, sort of gameplay within the rules. So Orikan the Diviner actually has two sort of stat lines which you play with, and I'll discuss how they sort of happen. Is basically through the game he can become empowered. So his normal stats are movement 5, which is kind of standard, weapon skill and bliss skill 3+, which is standard for a sort of cryptic, strength and toughness 4, standard for a cryptic, wounds 5, which is fine, 2 attacks, which is that more than a standard cryptic? Yeah. Leadership 10, so he's quite brave, and a 4+ save. So kinda better than a cryptic, I think by like 1 attack or something, so yeah, you know, fine there. But when he becomes empowered, he becomes a lot more powerful. Movement 5, so he's still quite slow in that part. Weapon skill and bliss skill 2+, so he becomes a lot more accurate. Strength and toughness 7, so he becomes in terms of HQs, other than maybe, oh no, he's tougher than Catacomb Command Barge, he is the strongest and toughest one there is. 7 wounds, so he goes up further 2 wounds, 4 attacks, so doubles his attacks, leadership 10 and a 4+ save. So he becomes a bit more powerful in that regard, you know, he gets an additional sort of stat line on that one. How does all that work? So he does have a weapon that will basically work out, as far as I know, the same way no matter what he sort of goes by. So Staff of Tomorrow is a melee weapon, strength user, so it's going to be strength 4 or strength 7, depending if he's empowered. -3 AP, so it's going to shred through armor. D3 damage, so you know, it'd be nice if when it was empowered it became 3 damage, but in this case it doesn't, which is not ideal. You can reroll failed hit rolls for this weapon, so it's a good way to make him a little bit more accurate, because he's already pretty accurate with 3+ and then 2+ make him super accurate. He has living metal, so he's going to recover his wound at the start of your turn. Master Chromancer, friendly Sutek infantry units within 6 inches of Orikan the Diviner have a 5+ invul save. Now that's interesting because I believe it's only with ranged weapons when you actually get the 5+ invul, but with him it appears to always be the case, even in melee, which is quite nice. And it's 6 rather than 3, so it adds a bit more of a bubble. Though if you're quite clever when it comes to using, you know, chromatrons, is it? Yeah, chronomatrons. You're going to try and keep at least one model within range of it, so that, you know, the unit does benefit from it. But it's nice to have that extra range and also having the ability to do it in combat if you are so combat orientated. He has Technomancer, add 1 to reanimation protocol rolls for friendly Sutek units within 3 inches of any Sutek cryptic, so kind of standard Technomancer cryptic sort of rule. And then finally the stars are right. Roll a d6 at the start of each of your turns. If the result is less than the current battle round, Orikan uses the Orikan Empowered profile for the rest of the game, though any damage he has sustained is carried on. So before I go into anything else, I just want to speak about the difference between them and sort of what I feel in there. Orikan does become quite strong, which is quite nice. The problems I can see with this is that you are paying quite a heavy amount of points if you are going by his less stats is mainly about his sort of support abilities, which is okay. They are not bad, but he has a hefty price to pay. When he becomes empowered, yeah, quite good, but it's still D3 damage, so it's not the most reliable. And it's also, you've got to roll less than the turn, so even by turn 3, it's still a 50-50 chance whether he becomes empowered or not. Turn 4, sorry, no, it's got to be, it's 50-50 chance when it's turn 4, which is still quite late on in the game, and then turn 5, it's, you know, a 66% chance because you've got to roll less than it. It can be something, if you're going to bank on it, it's kind of difficult. It'll be games where he's empowered and it's going to be great, but there's games where he's not going to be empowered. The only time he actually becomes empowered without rolling is turn 7, which if you ask me is maybe a little bit late in the game as is, which is kind of difficult on that part. One thing I would say when I loved it, in fact I'll leave that towards the end when I speak about these sort of 2 empowerments, but if you are banking on becoming empowered so it becomes a little bit more, you know, forceful in combat, it's still a bit of weaknesses on that side as well. So let's speak about his Legion trait. We'll go straight into it. Sutek, Relentless Advance. So this again adds nothing to Orikan. He doesn't have any ranged weapons, so it's not like or heavy weapons, so it's not going to help him. It's not bad, but it's not going to help him so much. It's more your supporting units that are going to see big benefits. Warlord trait, so it's going to be Hyperlogical Strategist again. People love this. People like command point farming. It's lost a little bit of usefulness that you can only do it you can only successfully do it once per, I think, battle round. So there's less, you know, that's due to tactical restraint. You can keep rolling until you succeed, but once you do, no more for that battle round. I don't rate as much when it's Necrons because I play usually games where I take elite forces and have low amounts of command points, and on rough I maybe get a command point back, while other traits I find I get a lot more use from it. It's still not bad. If people like their command points, then yeah, it's going to be good, and the personal reroll is good if he is empowered. So there is that, which can be quite handy. Stratagems, again, in all honesty, there's not so many that are like super useful when it comes to Necron HQs. There's a wide variety for the Necron forces, but the HQs themselves kind of struggles. Main ones is, of course, Resurrection Protocol, 1 command point. Use the stratagem when a Necron character from your army, excluding Transient the Infinite and Catan shards, are slain. At the end of the phase, roll a d6. On a 4+, set the character up again as close as possible to the previous position and more than 1 inch away from any models with 1 wound remaining. This stratagem cannot be used to resurrect the same model more than once per battle. Not actually bad in Orikan. Once he's empowered, he can hit pretty hard, so it's, you know, it's kind of worth doing if combat is a problem. If he gets killed, great, come back, and you know, you might cause damage happen in your opponent's turn. You're going to go up to 2 wounds because you essentially get your living metal as well. The other thing as well, I say this in every one, it's important. I think there was a battle report where Games Workshop did where they killed the character, then it came back, but still granted Slay the Warlord because you had achieved it. Even though they come back, you still achieve Slay the Warlord, and I believe Assassinate as well. So it's interesting if we've got a bit more clarity on that. If the character comes back, does it count as slain? But as far as we know at the moment, yes, it does. Other one that might be handy is Entropic Strike. 1 command point, use a stratagem in the fight phase before a Necron character from your army fights. Invul saves cannot be taken against the first close combat attack made by this character this phase. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this one. At -3 AP, your opponent on a 2+ save is still going to get a 5+ Invul save if they've got, is going to bring them to a 5+ save either way, which if they're not rocking a Storm Shield or anything, 9 times out of 10, that's probably going to be the case. You can still miss, you can still fail to wound, and your opponent may save it either way, so having that getting through 1 attack is not super reliable. Maybe if it was like at the point of rolling, I think you've got to do it before you actually roll for it, makes it a little bit more difficult on that one. Still handy for going if again you are facing an opponent that is rocking a Storm Shield and you absolutely need to make as many of them go through, and I would only ever do it once he's empowered. If he's not empowered beforehand, there might be situations, but not as far as I can tell. So that was quite a short one when it comes to Orikan the Diviner. What I was going to say when I love this is that there is a split sort of, you know, stat line for him. Now, where we've seen this before, and I think this is the only, I think there may be some occasions, but the one that comes mostly in mind is Mordethai from Age of Sigmar. And that I think was done really well. I don't know about rule-wise, I've not played Age of Sigmar in a very long time, and I'd love to because I really love, I used to play a lot of fantasy. But having these separate start lines to have characters that do different things or become empowered, with Mordethai it was really good because you got a separate whole different model, and I believe she did very different things. You know, I think she was a spell support character and quite deadly in combat to a huge sort of monstrous beast. And that was really cool, and I would love to see that more in the 40k universe. These sort of, you get one model and then you can change into something more, and Orikan is probably the principal example of that. Please let me know if there's other examples. but I would love to see that where you can have a character suddenly, you know, morph into something else. Maybe think of some like they have like armor that can drop in and they can attach to, you know, which would be really, really cool. Reference there to possibly, you know, a different franchise or something. But really, really cool if like they could like change into something else and become more powerful later on in the game, which would be super cool. It would also make snipers like drop that character beforehand before anything happens. But I like that idea. I don't know if it's worked well with Orikan. The main thing I'd say is weaknesses are a huge amount of points compared to Cryptic. Where Cryptic you are getting your +1 reanimations, which is super good. The 5-up invul at ranged, which is really good if you plan for it quite well. Orikan may be a bigger range when it comes to the invul, which, you know, if you play smart, it should be okay even at 3 inches. And then, you know, you've got your stars aligned, stars are right, so you can become empowered, but you're paying a lot of points for that. Where I find personally a Cryptic does find just on there, and then you can put points where else you think. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. I've never used Orikan and neither has David, if I'm pronouncing the name right, and I'm intrigued to see what people think in this one. I just really don't know, are the points worth it? I really can't tell, but part of me just goes, take a Cryptic. Yeah, so thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media. We have a bunch of projects coming through at the moment, like so many have gone into production, which I'm looking forward to. Check us out on Patreon as well, where you can support the channel so we can bring you more content, because we absolutely love doing so. And I'll see you again on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.